Hello everyone, this is the Kingdom Channel, and today we're going to be talking about Psalm 22. Psalm 22 is one of the last sayings that Jesus says on the cross. He says, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And surprisingly, there is a good amount of controversy surrounding Psalm 22 between the Jewish and Christian communities. Of course, Christianity claims that this psalm is most accurately talking about Jesus, while the Jewish community denies that. Now, the first reason this is denied is because of a translational dispute on verse 16. So in the Christian Bible, it would read something like this at the end of verse 16. "They pierced my hands and my feet." While a Jewish Bible, which theirs is, I believe, at verse 17, it would say, "Like a lion, they are at my hands and my feet." So let's see what a few respected Jewish scholars have to say about this.
What I want to convince you of is the following, that nobody in the early days believed that Psalm 22:16 said, "They pierced my hands and my feet." Everybody knew that the text said that like a lion they're at my hands and my feet. And subsequently, Christians changed it. They doctored.
Those are pretty outstanding claims against the Christian church. Now, let's take a look at the difference between these two words. The word for like a lion is ka'ari, while the word for pierced is ka'aru. The difference between these words is one letter in the Hebrew alphabet, and that's a yod and a vav. And when you put them side by side, they actually look somewhat similar. It's just that the yod is much smaller. Now, for a long time, the way we got our translations of the Old Testament was through the Masoretic texts. And to be fair, most of the Masoretic texts do read like a lion, but there are plenty of them that read the same translation of pierced. They'll be in different variants, but they're still read pierced. But the Masoretic texts aren't our main source of translation. Actually, there are much earlier manuscripts that we use. So two of the main ones we used are the Dead Sea Scrolls, and I believe there's two fragments of Psalm 22, and both of them actually read pierced. And then the Septuagint, which is our earliest Old Testament manuscript, reads pierced as well. So these are actually predating Jesus. The Septuagint is around 200 BC, while the Dead Sea Scrolls are around 100 BC. And I actually have a picture of one of the fragments of Psalm 22, and I'll let you put into practice kind of maybe the thing we learned earlier. You can see the difference between the yod and the vav there. And see how at the end of where that little circle is, how it's a long line. It's kind of faded because obviously it's old, but that long line shows that it's a vav, that it's not a yod. A yod would just be like a little mark up there, but it's a long line. So, and pretty much any good Dead Sea scholar who really studies this will say the same thing, that it reads pierced. So there is a 1,000-year gap in between the Masoretic text and the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Septuagint, yet Singer said that no one in the old times would have thought that this says pierced. They would have all gone with the idea that it's like a lion, which is just completely false because obviously the earliest manuscripts say pierced. And simply from a scholarly standpoint, it's just better to have earlier manuscripts. They're considered to be way more reliable. They're considered to be way closer to the original language and the original thought. This really brings up the question then, why does the Jewish Bible include the translation like a lion? Think about this. The oldest, most reliable manuscripts read pierced. And even in the time period from the 600s to the 900s, there are manuscripts that read pierced. Not all of them read like a lion, yet they still choose to go with the translation like a lion. instead of pierced. And simply and honestly, it's because it sounds like Jesus. There's really no way around that, because if it were any other text, if it was something that was maybe less important, they would change it if it was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls and in the Septuagint. And it's not like the Jewish community just looks at verse 16 and stops there and says there's no way Psalm 22 is talking about Jesus. They do give more reasoning than just verse 16, which I will be talking about in the next video. And I will also be talking about why this is so important.